Why is Europe reevaluating its long-standing relationship with the United States? What has changed in the global dynamics that now has European leaders increasingly turning toward China for solutions? For decades, Europe and the US shared a close alliance, grounded in common goals, especially in trade and security. However, this partnership has started to unravel, with tensions rising over tariffs, trade wars, and differing foreign policies. The shift is not merely political, it is also economic and strategic. But what has caused such a significant rift? And how are European countries responding to this change? The growing divide between the US and Europe can be traced back to the current administration's stance, especially in terms of tariffs. Under President Trump's leadership, the US imposed trade measures to address concerns about China's economic practices. These included tariffs on various European products, putting a strain on trade relations between the US and the EU. This has forced many European countries to reconsider their economic strategies. While the US remains a crucial partner for Europe in many sectors, the growing competition with China has led European leaders to rethink their alliances. As the US has focused on addressing global trade imbalances, Europe has been forced to adapt to a changing economic landscape. The economic weight of these trade tensions is being felt most strongly in countries like Germany, which heavily rely on exports. US tariffs have raised the stakes, with European industries concerned about losing access to key markets, especially in the US. In light of these pressures, European countries are increasingly turning their attention eastward to China, seeking new trade opportunities that go beyond traditional alliances. China's rising economic influence has presented a potential solution for Europe's economic challenges. European leaders are looking for greater collaboration with China, especially in areas such as technological innovation, infrastructure investments, and energy supplies. By strengthening ties with China, Europe aims to secure its future growth while also mitigating the risks posed by deteriorating relations. With the US-China's massive market and growing influence have made it an attractive partner for many European countries. This shift marks a significant change in Europe's trade strategy. But it is not without complications. How will Europe balance its relationship with China without jeopardizing its alliance with the US? One of the most vulnerable sectors in Europe is the automotive industry, which has been heavily impacted by US tariffs. European car manufacturers are now calling for a compromise between the EU and the US to ease these trade tensions. This push for a balanced solution highlights the urgent need for Europe to navigate this delicate trade war. The question remains, how much longer will European industries be able to bear the economic pressure before seeking deeper cooperation? With China? China has already become Europe's second largest trading partner, and the relationship is growing stronger by the day. From energy deals to technology investments, China's footprint in Europe is expanding. However, as the US continues its hardline stance on trade, Europe is increasingly looking to China to secure its economic future. This shift marks a turning point in the global trade landscape. How will Europe adapt to this new reality, and what will this mean for the future of global trade? At the same time, Europe's newfound enthusiasm for China is complicated by rising tensions, particularly over issues such as intellectual property rights, technology standards, and human rights. European leaders are caught in a difficult position. They must weigh the economic opportunities presented by China against the pressure to uphold values like democracy and human rights. How will Europe balance these competing interests as it strengthens ties with China while maintaining its relationship with the US? The situation becomes even more complex as former President Trump's return to power appears increasingly likely. His foreign policy stance toward Europe is well documented, and it is unlikely to change. This means that trade tensions between the US and the EU are expected to escalate, forcing Europe to confront the challenge of maintaining a strong economic and security relationship with the US, while simultaneously cultivating deeper ties with China. The stakes are high, and Europe's decisions will have far-reaching implications. With the trade war between the US and China intensifying, Europe is preparing for the fallout. Both the US and China are critical economic players, and Europe finds itself caught in the middle. As the EU weighs its options, it faces a tough decision. Should it choose sides or attempt to navigate a complex balancing act? Every move Europe makes will have serious consequences, and the pressure is mounting. Will Europe be able to safeguard its economic interests, or will it find itself caught in the crossfire of a trade war? In response to US tariffs, the EU has already taken action to protect its industries. From retaliatory tariffs to new trade agreements with other global players, Europe is making its position clear. It will not be bullied by US pressure. However, the question remains, will these countermeasures be enough to maintain the balance? And how long can the EU continue this economic tug-of-war before more drastic measures are taken? China's growing economic influence in Europe is becoming increasingly evident. From major infrastructure projects to strategic investments in European companies, China is making its presence felt in ways that cannot be ignored. Some European leaders are beginning to worry about the long-term consequences of becoming too reliant on China. Could Europe's economic future lie in Beijing's hands? Or is there a way to balance this relationship with the US? One of the most critical areas of competition between the US and China is technology. The race for technological dominance is at the heart of this geopolitical struggle, and Europe finds itself in the middle of this rivalry. European companies rely on both the US and China for technology trade, and Europe must navigate this increasingly complex landscape. What role will Europe play in shaping the global tech landscape as it grapples with this technological rivalry between two of the world's largest economies? Beyond trade, Europe's security relationship with the US through NATO has been another cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. However, as the US focuses more on domestic concerns and its relationship with China, Europe is looking for ways to strengthen its own defense capabilities. This shift could lead to a re-evaluation of NATO's role in global security. How will Europe navigate the delicate balance between strengthening its defense capabilities while maintaining its traditional alliance with the US? As Europe continues to explore alternatives to its relationship with the US, the future of transatlantic relations remains uncertain. Europe is at a crossroads, forced to choose between continuing its close ties with the US or embracing a new relationship with China. The road ahead is filled with risks, and Europe must carefully consider its options. The choices it makes now will have a lasting impact on its future, both economically and geopolitically. Europe's decisions will not only shape its own future, but also influence the direction of global trade and security in the years to come.